This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Yashikar to everyone for coming out and braving the storm this morning. It's almost like Ir Hanidachas over here. But speaking about Ir Hanidachas, it's very interesting that when we look at Chumash, especially Sefer Bereshis, we tend to look at it as a storyline, narrative. But the truth is that aside from the fact that we know that the purpose of the Torah is it's not a storybook, it's not a narrative, and we learn out lessons from not only every Parsha, not only every word, but every Nakuda, every Ois. But besides the lessons that we learn out, there's no episode, there's no even small aspect of any story that does not have halachic ramifications. And we're going to take that to a little bit of the extreme today, and we're going to look at a episode that we're all familiar with, but with a different perspective, more of a halachic perspective. We're going to look at the episode of the city of Sedom. But before we do that, we're going to take a look at Rashi on the very first pasuk in this week's Parsha. Vayeira elav Hashem Eloinei Mamre. Hashem appeared to Abraham in Eloinei Mamre, v'hu yoshev Pesach ha'oyel, and he was sitting at the entrance of the tent. So Rashi points out that you would normally spell the word Yoshev, Yud, Vav, Shin, Vez, with a Vav. And in this case, it's missing a Vav. It's spelled Yashav. So what does Rashi say? Rashi says, it's quoted number 9 on your sheets, Yoshev, Yashav, Ksiv. Even though we pronounce it Yoshev, he was sitting, but it's written Yashav, that he sat. So what does that mean? What does it mean he sat? When you say someone sat, that means he was in a standing position, or even if he wasn't in a standing position, he wanted to stand, and the Torah is saying, no, he sat. Yashav Ksiv. It's written he sat. Why? Bikei Shlamay. Really?
He wanted to get up.
Yeah, Avraham Avinu wanted to stand up. No, right? Somebody comes in the room and says, no, right? You hold him down. Shev, sit. Vani Emon, I'm going to stand. You sit. Really, Avraham Avinu wanted to stand. God said, no, sit. Why? Why did Avraham Avinu want to stand? Obviously he wants to stand because Hashem came in. But Hashem said no. And let this serve as a siman, v'ata siman l'banecha, let this serve as a sign, sha'aser ani lehisyatsev ba'adas hadayanim v'hen yoshim. I will stand in the council of Dayanim, judges. Shenemar, how do I know this? Elokim nitzav v'adas kel. God stands in the council of the Dayanim. In other words, the Dayanim are convening. What position are the Dayanim in? They're sitting. Right? To convene a Bezdin, they need to sit. And Hashem is standing. So Avraham Avinu wanted to stand. And Hashem said, no, sit. And this will be the paradigm of what a Bezdin looks like. Where the Dayanim sit, and God is standing. So the question is, this is the time that Hashem chooses to be merames to a Bezdin? I mean, Avraham Avinu is in his pajamas. He's recovering from his third day of his Milah, right? He's sitting there. He's waiting for some guests. There is no court case going on. There's no Dayanis going on. Avraham Avinu is not a Dayan. He's simply, it's Pesach, yeah? It's the third day of his Milah. And Hashem says, imagine, Hashem's looking at the calendar. I need to teach Klal Yisrael the lesson that when Dayanim convene, they're going to sit and I'm going to stand. When should I do that? Oh yeah, on the third day of Avraham Avinu's Milah, when he's B'tzar, and the sun is there. Why did Hashem pick this moment in history to teach the lesson that Dayanim sit, and the Rebbeinu Shalom stands in there? Okay. Also very interesting.
Part of the mission of the Malacha.
Yeah.
Is Dayanim. Of course they're going to destroy Sodom, and then Avraham Avinu is going to...
Well, right now, the Malachim are coming to Avram to tell him he's going to have a kid. And also very interesting, the Malachim, Hashem wants to destroy the city of Sodom. Yeah? So, it's almost ironic. Hashem says, Avraham, I want to destroy Sodom. So Avraham says, maybe they're 50 tzaddikim, maybe they're 40, maybe they're 30, maybe they're 20. And then Hashem destroys it. In other words, it's almost as if, before Hashem destroys Sodom, he has to see, is there anything good to say about Sodom? There's something good about Sodom? Now I could destroy the city. As if there was nothing anybody could ever say good about Sodom, if they were completely bad, then he would never destroy them. It's like almost that Hashem was waiting to hear a good word about Sodom and then to destroy it. I mean, that's what it sounds like. All right, Hashem could have just gone into the city of the Sodom and destroyed it. Hashem knows. Hashem knows there were no tzaddikim. So what's he going through the whole charade for? It's like a charade. Hashem knew they didn't even have 10 tzaddikim. So what does he do? So if Hashem wanted, what should he have done? He should have just wiped out the city of Sodom. No. First, let's go to Abraham. Let's hear if there's one good thing to say about them. Oh, you have something nice? Oh, now let's destroy them.
That's Gemara Sanhedrin. That's the Shikol Chayiv. It's Potter. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Another thing to think about, and that is, how many cities were there? Right? 5 towns, right? Sodom, Amora, Adma, Tzvayim, Tzayara.
5 towns.
Right? 5 cities. How many?
You don't want to say Lahav?
I didn't say anything, right? How many were burnt down?
4.
So we would think 4 of them. After all, we say in Parshas Nitzavim, Kema pecha Sedom Amora Adma Utzvayim. Right? 4. Sedom, Amora, Adma, Tzvayim. And yet, if you look in some of the psukim in this week's Parsha, it only mentions Sedom and Amora. Right? For instance, if you turn over your sheet, you have in number 14, Vashem Himtir al Sedom v'al Amora. God rained down on Sedom and Amora. Yeah, what about the others? What about the others? In the Tzavim it says Sedom, Amora, Adma, Tzvayim. 4. In Vayeira it says only 2. And also, when it comes to turning over, look in the next verse, Vayafich es ha'orim ha'el. All of them. Right? There's kol ha'kikar. So what was it? Or in Sefer Yirmiyah, it says, Kistoim, in Yeshaya, Kistoim ha'yinu, la'amora daminu, right? We only invoke Sedom and Amor. So what was it? Was it Sedom? Right? In the world, right? If you ask, what were the cities that were destroyed, right? You stop a guy on the street, Sodom and Gomorrah, right? That's what they're going to say. They know, but they never heard of Adma and Tzvayim. And they may be right. That's what it says in Yeshaya. That's what it says elsewhere in the week's Parsha. But in Nitzavim, not in the Parsha, it says, Sedom, Amora, Adma, Utzvayim. What? It says, Kema pechas asher hafach Hashem. That's another pasuk, right? Okay.
My question is, how come Lot had the pull that Zohar was not destroyed?
Okay, we could ask that also. Why was Sarah not destroyed? Haloi mitzar, it's small. So what? It's small. It's big. It's medium sized. Who cares?
It was the last one populated.
It's the last one. It's the last city, so it didn't have as many averos. I mean, that's the reason, because it's small. Sarah is small. Who cares if it's small? And then, very interesting, if you look in the beginning of Parak Yates, the Torah says, V'loit Yoshev B'shar Sodom, Lot was living in the gate of Sodom. Yeah, who cares? Let's say he was living in a cave. It makes a difference to the story. I need to know what his address. Well, why don't you give me a zip code also? He was living in the gate of Sodom. Yeah, and what's his mailbox number? I don't need to know this. Who cares if he's in the gate of Sodom?
Person is influenced by whom he's around.
Yeah, so say he lived in Sodom. I need to know he lived in the gate, and let's say he lived in a skyscraper or an apartment building. What do I need to know where he lived? Yeah? Was he a Republican, a Democrat? We don't need to know all the information, right? The Torah only gives us essential information. Why do I need to know he would live B'shar Sodom? Okay. Also, very interesting. Look in Parak Yotes, Pasuk Chav Gimel. The Pasuk says, the Parak Yotes, Pasuk Chav Gimel, the Pasuk says, Hashem esh yatsa al aretz. It was Netzach Hama. Who cares? Yeah, let's say it was Mishayaker. Let's say it was, after Zman Krishma. I need to know it was Hashem Eshatz Al Aretz. And then a few psukim earlier, in Pasuk Tezvav, Uchamai HaShachar Ola. It was Alois HaShachar. Who cares? All the extraneous information. I need to know exactly what time. Was it the Grozman or the Magen Avram? I mean, I need to know that first it was a Chumaya Shachar Allah, and later on it was Hashemesh Yatza Ala Aretz. Okay. Says the Rambam. Let's see. Says the Rambam. The Rambam tells us a very interesting idea. Veheich din ir hanidachas. Yeah, well, hopefully, our the East Coast will not become this. But heich din ir hanidachas. What is an ir hanidachas? Right? Bizman sheteru yelei asois ir hanidachas. When a city is worthy to become an ir hanidachas, Bezdin Hagadol Sholchin V'Darshin V'Chaykrin. The Bezdin Hagadol, not your Bezdin of 3, not your Bezdin of 23. You need a Bezdin of 71. The Bezdin Hagadol sends the Darshin, they expound V'Chaykrin, they investigate Ad Sheyadu B'Raya B'Ru, until they know clearly Shehudcha Kol Ha'ir, that the entire city has been diverted from their belief, Ayruba, or most of it, V'Chazvel Avodah Zarah, and they have deviated to Avodah Zarah. So now that Bezdin took a poll, they took a Gallup poll, and right now the poll has them at 61% of the people in the city serving Avodah Zarah. Achar
Jews, no?
possibly, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. Achar kach, sholchem lahem shnei talmidei chachamim. Afterwards, says the Rambam, you send 2 talmidei chachamim lehazer oisan, to warn them, ulahachziran, and to let them, warn them to do tshuva. Im chazu va'asu tshuva mutav. If they do tshuva, everything is good. Now the Rambam doesn't mean everything is good, because the halacha is, what if somebody kills someone, and as we're about to kill the guy, he says, Ana Hashem, chatasi avisi pashati lefanecha. What do we do to him? We kill him. Tshuva. That's between him and God. But tshuva doesn't help for Bezdin Shalmata. So when the Rambam says if he does tshuva, things are good, it means the city does not have this din of ir hanidachas, which means then we judge each person individually as an Oved Avodah Zarah, and how will we kill them? Skila. But if they don't do tshuva, and the majority of the city served Avodah Zarah, then it has a din of ir hanidachas. What's the din of ir hanidachas? Hereg, we chop off their heads, we burn down the city, we kill even the wives of the people who served Avodah Zarah, we kill the children of the people who served Avodah Zarah, and we burn down the entire city and all the possessions. And even the tzaddikim who did not serve Avodah Zarah, their possessions are also destroyed. But if the people do tshuva, then we judge each person individually. That's what the Rambam means. But if these people do not do tshuva, Bezdin, Mitzuvin, L'chol Yisrael, Lalas Alein, Bezdin commands the entire Jewish people to gang up against the city, Litzaver for war, V'hein Saran Alein, and they siege against them, V'archin Imam Muhammad Ad Shetibaka Er, until they destroy the whole city. Says the Ravid, when did the Rambam become such a liberal that we offer people the chance to do tshuva? Where did that come from? We give nidachas. They've been cast away. They've fallen away. There is a term. What's the term for ir nidachas?
Forsaken.
There's a better term. Come to me. Okay, but the Ravid wants to know. Look what he says. The Rambam says
relinquished.
We send 2 talmidei chachamim to warn them to do tshuva. I mean, what? Where did the Rambam get this from? Well, all of a sudden the Rambam made up a halacha that after the majority of the city served Avodah Zarah, we send 2 darshanim to the city. We get 2 good, really fiery speakers, and they tell the people to do tshuva. And if they do tshuva, I mean, where does this come from? 2 talmidei chachamim? Where do we get this from? Says the Ravid, Omer Avram, Toiv HaDover should tell them true. It's beautiful. It's mamish, very, very shame that the Rambam saying the usual. We don't find anywhere in Shas that tshuva helps after they were warned not to serve Avodah Zarah, right? They were warned. They served Avodah Zarah, so now they're going to do tshuva. Great, they could do tshuva. Where'd the Rambam get this from?
How about Yonah?
Nineveh was ir hanidachas. They served Avodah Zarah. They served Avodah Zarah. Who says? Geneva. Geneva, right? Yeah. So where does the Rambam get? The Ravid said, I scoured every blot in Shas, every Bavli, every Yushalmi, there is no makar anywhere that we offer the chance to do tshuva to the Ir Nidachas. Not only that, I looked in the Sifri, I looked in the Sifra, I looked in Medrash Rabbah, Medrash Tanchuma, I looked in the Zohar. There is no source anywhere that we offer the Ir Nidachas opportunity to do tshuva.
It's in a Rashi because Hashem said, "Let me go down, I'm going to check what's going on."
Okay. So Hashem, right, but that's what that everyone agrees to. The Bezdin, before they proclaim Ir Nidachas, the Bezdin has to be certain that they serve Avodah Zarah. That's what Hashem's doing. Vashem, right? That was pointing out something very good. By the way, what does Rashi say on the word Vashem? Vashem komakom shenemar Vashem. It's Hashemu Bezdinai. It's God and His Bezdin. Because we learn from here that in order for the Bezdin Hagadol to carry out something, they have to have first-hand information. Fine. But where is there any makar anywhere that two Talmidei Chachamim are sent to a city to offer them the opportunity to do tshuva? Comes along the Rogotchover, right? By the way, if you want to know about the Rogotchover, you could ask Rabbi Savitsky.
His father was
Rabbi Savitsky's father was known as one of the biggest Bekiyim in Yerushalmi in the generation. When he came to Lakewood, they let him give shiur in Lakewood Yeshiva. He wrote many volumes on Yerushalmi. So Rabbi Savitsky's father. And the Rogotchover, there were Gedolei Olam, the Rogotchover would not look at. He would not even look at them. And with Rabbi Savitsky's father, he has an entire volume of correspondence between Rabbi Savitsky's father and the Rogotchover called Ner Avram. But in any event,
Also, Rabbi Tyson was very close to Rogotchover.
Who wouldn't look at what?
the Rogotchover, he did not suffer fools. Not only that, he would not even Gedolei Olam. He would not even look at them. So you had to be on an extremely high level of scholarship for the Rogotchover even to be goyrus you, let alone correspond with you.
The way I heard he was considered, even though he wasn't living together there with him in Minsk, the Talmud Mufak of the Rogotchover. He had that reputation.
Yeah.
And what was Savitsky?
Yeah.
I was supposed to learn with him.
Yeah?
I did. Yeah, he's got his shiurim and Chayot in Boston. Yeah.
So the Rogotchover says the following: Ravid, yeah, there's no source in Bavli, there's no source in Yerushalmi, Sifra, Sifri, Mechilta, but you forgot about Targum Unclus in this week's Parsha. Targum Unclus in this week's Parsha. So first thing the Rogotchover does is he proves that Sodom had the status of Ir HaNidachas. How do we know Sodom had the status of Ir HaNidachas? It's a Gemara, it's a Yerushalmi in Sanhedrin. Take a look at number 6. Okay? Yerushalmi in Sanhedrin. Amar Rish Lakish. Kal v'chaymer. The Gemara is making a kal v'chaymer. Ma'im nechasim she'ein bahem das loy l'tov loy ra. If money has no das. As much as people think money has das, money has no das. Loy l'tov loy ra. Can't choose good, can't choose bad. But if if the possessions were the cause of someone living in a city, what do we do to the person's possessions? We destroy the possessions, right? Al yidei shegarmu l'tzadikim l'adarim harashayim. Because they caused tzadikim to live with Risham. Amra Torah, the Torah says sheyisrafu, that the possessions need to be burnt. Hamiskavein lahater says chaverai, someone who has in mind to turn his friend umateu miderach tov l'derach ra, and he turns him from the good path to the bad path. Alachas kama v'kama. In other words, if even money, which is not really responsible for anybody living anywhere, it doesn't have any das, right? But if somebody chose to live in a certain location because of money, so then what do we do to that money if a city is deemed to be Ir Nidachas? We destroy the money. So imagine the punishment of somebody who actively entices someone to go off the derech. The punishment is terrible. Says the Gemara, what's the source of this? What's the source that we will destroy the money of a city of an Ir HaNidachas? Amar Lazer, Meichiach b'davar b'lait. The proof is light. Shalayashav v'staim ela b'nei mamaynim. The only reason Lai lived in Sodom is he liked the suburban area. Afu yatzav yadav arosh. And when he left, Light left, but with his hands on his head, not his hands in his pocket. You know why? Because his pocket was empty. All of his possessions were destroyed in the city of Sodom. Hadahu dechsiv, maher himaleit shama, dayecha sham emales nafshcha. Be happy you escaped with your skin. So the Gemara, the Yerushalmi, is clearly saying that Sodom had the status of Ir HaNidachas. And the Gemara is proving that if a tzaddik who didn't serve Avodah Zarah gets to leave the city, with his skin, but his money is still destroyed. What's the proof? Light. So the Yerushalmi is clearly learning that Sodom was Ir Hanidachas. No question, right? Explicit proof. Open proof. Well, he wasn't tzaddik, but we don't find that he served Avodah Zarah, and he was able to be saved. Says the Rogotchover, take a look at Targum Unclus. Look at number 4. This is in Parak Yud Ches, Pasuk Chaf Aleph. Okay? Parak Yud Ches, Pasuk Yud Aleph. Pasuk Chaf Aleph. Take a look. Vayeira love. Yeah, take a look. Yud Ches Chaf Aleph. Erdana. Look in, right? Take a look. Chaf Aleph. Iskalichan. I'm going to go down. Ve'era. I'm going to see Haketzaka Sahaboilai Asu Kala Be'imlai Eda'a. Literally that means God says, I'm going to go down and see whether they deserve to be punished. Be'imlai. And if not Eda'a, I'll know what to do. Says the Targum. Look at this. Iskalichan. I'm going to go down. The Edanan, I'm going to judge them. Hachi keviltahain are the complaints. De'alas likadamai that come before me. Avadu, did they do them? Then ebenim hangemer, then I'll destroy them. Ve'im toivin. But if they do tshuva, la espera, I will not pay them back. I will not take revenge. So the Targum Unclus is saying that when it comes to Ir Hanidachas, now how do we know it's Ir Hanidachas? That's the Yerushalmi and Sanhedrin. The Targum Unclus is saying, if they do tshuva, I'm not going to punish them like an Ir Hanidachas. Says the Rogotchover.
Where does he get that from?
The Rambam, Targum Unclus is Misinai. Says the Rogotchover. The Rambam's source is not Bavli. The Rambam's source is not Yerushalmi. The Rambam's source is not Mechilta. The Rambam's source is Targum Unclus in this week's Parsha. So where did the two Talmid Chacham come from? And who offered the city of Sodom the opportunity to do tshuva? 2 Malachei Hasharis. These are the 2 Talmidei Chachamim that need to be sent to the city to give them the opportunity to do tshuva. Look at number 3, says it's Safnas Paneach. Mikan Lamad Rabbeinu Harambam Zal Behilchos Avodah Zarah Gabe Ir Hanidachas Tetchila Masim Behem LeTshuva. We give them the opportunity to do tshuva. Im asu tshuva, they're not off the hook. Right? Az oisam sha'avda there's in a skull, and then those who served Avodah will get skila. Ushar, but the women, the children, and the actual city will not be burnt out. But if they don't do tshuva, it has the status of Ir Hanidachas, will chop off everyone's head and will burn down the city. Okay? So it's an amazing thing, right? Where the Rambam, according to the Rogotchover, the Makar of the Rambam is Targum Unclus. Right? That's an amazing thing. The Rambam is deriving an entire halacha that has no other source other than Targum Unclus. So let's take it a little further. Why did the Ribbon Shalom come to Abraham? If you remember, God comes to Avraham Avinu, and he's interrupted. Right? In other words, Hashem comes to Abraham. Vayeira, I love Hashem. Hashem's coming to Abraham. But then Hashem is interrupted by who? The Malachim. And what does Hashem say to, what does Abraham say to Hashem? Vayomer Adoi Shem al Nosavar. You wait here, Hashem, until I'm finished. Says the Shas Yeshuvas ben Yishlamai, right? And Mr. Nathan, I think this is what you're trying to say before. God came to Abraham originally to be a dayan on the case of Sodom. Yeah? To be a dayan on the case of Sodom. The only thing is, the case had to be, right, what's the word? You take a break in the case. Right?
Adjourned.
Right? Right? They called a recess for a few minutes until while the Malachim were there. But Hashem came to Avram be'ikr to discuss what to do with Sodom. That's why as soon as Malachim leave, what happened? Hashem says, Oi, am I going to hide it from Abraham? That's why Hashem came. So Abraham wanted to stand. Hashem said, sit! You're a dayan over here. You're a dayan. This will be the model. This will be the paradigm of what the Bezdin looks like. The dayanim are sitting and I'm standing, because primarily God came to Abraham that Abraham should be a dayan. Look at number 10. The Shas Yeshuvas Binyan Shloimeh of Rabbi Shlomo HaKohen Mivilna. Maybe because someone could go into the bag over there and get some new batteries. Rabbi Shlomo HaKohen Mivilna points out, look at number 10. The problem is, why is Rashi saying, why do Chazal say that Hashem is hinting to Avram the way a court case should look like? Hashem didn't come to him. Hashem came to visit him, not Inyan Din Lakan. Rav Shlomo HaKohen Mivilna says the name of his father. Pshitus ha'inyan mashma. The truth is, the simple meaning of the psukim are Shakadosh Baruch Hu ba'elav l'haidiyah sharoitz alasis din b'stoim. The primary reason God came is to judge the city of Sodom. Because the pasuk says right after Abraham accompanied the Malachim, what did Hashem say? Hashem Amar Hamachas ani me Avraham Eis asher ani yosef. Am I going to hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? Hashem was teaching a halacha that Gedolah Achnas Asarchim.
It's in the middle of a court case.
Because Hashem wanted to take the son out, so Avram shouldn't be born.
Yeah, where Avram wanted?
Because of the healing. And then he wanted, Avram was the tsar, and he wanted guests.
So he could have said, okay, Avram, let's wait a couple of minutes. I'll bring you some guests. We have to decide this court case.
Look, we learn out very important halachas. We learn from here, Gedolah Achnas Asarchim, Yosem Mekbas Mnei Hashchina, Yosem Meshkas Meresh. Chavetz Chaim says, halacha l'maisa, if you're about to go to shul, and you have an important guest, that you can't just tell someone else to greet. It's more important to greet your guest than to go out to shul. Halacha l'maisa. We learn out halachas from here. But, so he says, the simple meaning why God came to Avram as to talk about Sodom. Elamitoich should take a bala malachim because malachim interrupted him to like Baruch Ad shehichnas as ha'archim k'may shabikish Avram. Hashem waited for him, like Avram asked. Adoi Shem al nos Avram me'avdecha. Like Rashi says that Avram was asking the Rebbeinu Shem to wait for him. Uvezem yushav. Now we understand. She'Avraham bikesh lama b'nei k'fay hashchina. Avram wanted to stand. So what does Hashem say? No. You sit, and this will be the paradigm of what a court case looks like. Okay, very interesting. So now we understand a little bit. Avraham Avinu was a dayan over here. Now we understand what you pointed out before. The pasuk says, Rashi, look, Yotes Chav Dalet. Rashi Yotes Chav Dalet. The pasuk says, yeah, Vashem Himter al Sodom. What does Rashi say? Vashem Kamakom Shenemer Vashem. It's who Besdinai, God and His Bezdin. Why did we need God and His Bezdin? Because to destroy Ir Hanidachas, you need what? Bezdin Hagadol. Not any Bezdin. You need Bezdin Hagadol. That's why it makes a point of the fact it's Vashem, right? Himter al Sodom. Not every time that punishment happens in this world does the pasuk say Vashem. Why does it say Vashem? You need the halachic status of Bezdin Hagadol. Oh. Yeah, but you need the great Sanhedrin. You need the Bezdin Hagadol. Now, very interesting. In order for a city to be an Ir Hanidachas, how many people have to be living in the city? You need a minimum of 100. You need 100 people. If you take a look, in Sanhedrin, Tezvav Beis, number 13, the Tanya, Ad Kama Oisin Ir Hanidachas, Miyud Ad Kuf, 10 to 100, Divrei Rabbi Yoshia, Rabbi Yonasan Omar, Rabbi Yonasan says, and this is how we paskin, Mikuf Yad Ruba Shel Shevet. You need up minimum 100. You need 100. Yeah? Says the Rogotchover, very interesting. We find throughout Shas that whenever you need a certain number of people, there's always a suffix. What if you have mechza al mechza? What if you have mechza al mechza, 50-50? For example, it's Gemara in Chulin, Gemara in Pesachim, a Mishnah Machshirin, in Negaim, okay? In Gittin, the Rogotchover says, the Kama Makaimis Ein Mismar. There are innumerable amount of places what the din would be by mechza al mechza. Now, why is it such a controversy that we don't know what to do when it's 50-50? The Rogotchover says because the Torah speaks about normal cases. Most cases, you either have a roiv or you don't have a roiv. 50-50 is very unlikely. So Avram Avinu was really the first one to push the button. God, what if there are 50 tzaddikim? What's the halacha by mechza al mechza? So Hashem said, don't worry about it. There aren't 50 today. Hashem was non-committal to this Lamda Shishayla. If you have Mefza, so Hashem says, when we have 50, then we'll talk about it. Then we could clear the Chakira. But right now we don't have 50. Says the Rogotchover. By the way, now take a look. Now this is amazing. Parak Yotes, Pasuk Chaf Daled. V'Hashem himtir al Sedom v'al Amor. Like we pointed out earlier, when it comes to the fire, the Gofres Va'esh, Sedom and Amora. And then the next pasuk says, "Vayafich es Armael v'yiskal hakika." All the cities were overturned. Now look in pasuk Chavtes. Vayi b'shachis Elokim es Ar Hakika v'yiskar Elokim es Abraham v'yishalach es Loit mitocha afecha. Why is it that in pasuk Chav Daled it's Vashem, Bezdin Hagadol, and in pasuk Chavtes it's Elokim? Elokim is just a regular dayan. What happened? Says the Rogotchover, this is amazing. How many cities are you allowed to make Ir Hanidachas? Let's say, the entire world is serving Avodah Zarah. You just destroy the whole world? No. There's a halacha. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Daf Beis Amud Aleph, right? Even if you didn't get too far in Sanhedrin. Daf Beis Amud Aleph. The Mishnah says, Einoisin Ir Hanidah, number 16. Einoisin Ir Hanidachas Bisfar. You can't make a border city Ir Hanidachas. What are you going to do? You're going to leave open the border? Can't, no. V'loi Shalosh. You can't make 3 cities Ir Hanidachas. Aval Oisin Achas Hashem. You can do 1 or 2. So what do you do with the other cities? What's the halacha of Ir Hanidachas? First you raise the city, you turn it over, and then you burn it down. So what the Mishnah is saying is you don't burn down more than 2 cities. You still turn them over. You still raise them. Says the Rogotchover. Halachically speaking, you're only allowed to make 2 cities Er Hanidachas. You're only allowed to burn down 2 cities. How many cities were burnt down? Vashem, Himtir, Al Sedom, V'al Amora, and that is it. Only 2 cities were burnt down. Why? Because you can't make more than 2 cities Er Hanidachas. That's why only Sedom and Amora are mentioned in reference to Gofres Va'esh. It's amazing. Only 2 cities are mentioned regarding Gofres Va'esh. And that's why by Sedom and Amora it says Vashem. Because halachically you could only make 2 cities Er Hanidachas, and you only need a Bezdin Haggadah for 2 of the cities. But the other cities, they were still overturned. But for them, you don't need the Bezdin Haggadah. That's why for the other cities, it doesn't say Hashem burnt them down. It doesn't say Vashem. It only says Elokim. That is why, says the Rogotchover, this is pointed out in the footnotes on the Rogotchover, by the footnotes of the Rogotchover, a comprehensive work was done on the Rogotchover by, I believe, Rav Menachem Kashar. And he writes in the footnotes on the Rogotchover in number 15, he points out in Parshas Nitzavim, it says, Kema Pechas, Sedom, Va'amoira, Admo Tzvim. When it comes to the Ma'pecha, they're all mentioned. When it comes to the overturning of the cities, they're all mentioned. Because you could overturn all the cities. It's only when it comes to burning them down, therefore, you need the Bezdin Haggadah, and you can only do 2. You can only do 2. Now listen to this. When it comes to killing people, for a Bezdin to kill people, what time of day could Bezdin kill people? Day. Alois HaShachar or Neitz HaChama? You need Neitz HaChama. It's a Gemara in Sanhedrin. Says the Rogotchover. Look at number 18. Hashemesh Yatza La'aretz. When the sun came out. Next pasuk, Hashem Himter Asadayim. Then Hashem could kill the city. But in pasuk Kezvav, Uchumay HaShachar Allah, at Alois HaShachar, the city was starting to be raised already. Light had to get out. It's an amazing thing. Regarding the official status of Yanidach's killing people, you need Hashemesh Yatza La'aretz. And the Gemara says, why? Because the pasuk says, V'hoika oisam L'Hashem neged Hashemesh. That's why it says Hashemesh Yatza La'aretz. But when it comes to the raising of the cities, you need what? All you need is a Uchumay HaShachar Allah. Says the Rogotchover. Listen to this. Why were lights... Where am I up to now?
No, we're in the document we're reading.
Number 19. The daughters of light. They were big, big tzaddikim. They were tzaddikas.
They meant well.
Did they serve Avodah Zarah or did they not serve Avodah Zarah?
No.
We don't find anywhere that they were tzaddikim.
But they were saved.
Why were they saved? Says the Rogotchover, Parak Yotes, Pasuk Aleph, where did Lot live? He didn't live in the city. He lived in the wall. What's the halacha if you live in the wall? You could be mitzdarif if you're a tzaddik to save the city, but you're not destroyed with the rest of the city. That is why the daughters of Lot were saved. Because V'Lot Yoshev B'Shar Sedom. This is not just telling me, by the way, his address was, we don't care about his address. It's telling you halachically. Look at number 19, Aleph. V'Lot Yoshev B'Shar Sedom. Ratzaloymar Dinaf Gaminam Hu B'Chlal B'nei Eir. Is he part of the city? And look all the way at the end of Aleph. Lakach Nisharu Habana Shahayu B'Bais. That's why the daughters who were in the house were saved. Avol Nashim Shahayu B'Ir Narago. But the other daughters who, right? The other women who were in the city, they were killed.
By Yocheved, she came down with Mitzrayim.
Right, Yocheved gave birth Bein HaChaimais.
Right, so she was part of Egypt, or was she part of...
Okay, that's she was a boarder, right? Her child, who was born? Yocheved was right. Yocheved was Nola Bein HaChaimais. That's why some Rishonim count her among the 70, some don't count her. Okay. Then the Rogotchover points out another thing. It may not work out with what we just said, and that is if you look in Perek Yotes Pasuk Yodalid, the Malachim come to light. Vayeitze, right? Vayeitze light. Vayidar b'chasam. 1 second. Pasuk Yud Beis. Vayomer anoshim aloyd. Oid mi l'chapai. Who else do you have? Chasan, Banecha, Bneisecha, B'chal Hashelecha Be'ir. Haitzim Nakam. Who else you got? Right? Take out everything you have. Right? All your relatives. Why? Did they serve Avodah Zarah? Probably. So why take them out? Says the Rogotchover, this is my makar for the halacha, that even though we kill all the Avodah Zarah, anyone who escapes the city before we're done the city is saved. How do we know this? Because Malachim say to Lot, get out, anyone you can, before the din is performed. Why did Lot go to Tzayara? Right? Why did he go to Haloi Mitzar? It's small. Says Lot, there are less than 100 people here. You can't carry out the din of Yerani Dachas. It's halachic lupon. They don't have to say like Rashi, it was settled, 1 year before the others, and therefore there were less Averos. It's very pashut. You cannot perform it. It's small. Haloi Mitzar. It's small. Not the Averos were small. This city is small. Right? That's what the Rogotchover says. Okay.
So
and then
the case, why was it slated to be destroyed for 3 months?
Officially, it did the same Averos as the Yerani Dachas, but Lamaisa, it had this legal loophole. It had a legal loophole. Right. And those that served would have been killed. Correct.
Because they saw no one was around.
Says the Rogotchover, one last thing, that ultimately, Sodom is going to have some kind of correction. It's not hopeless. How do I know this? Because even though the Mishnah says in Sanhedrin, look at number 23, that the Anshe Sodom, they have no share in the world to come. Right? Anshe Sodom ein lahem chelek lahem haba, shenemer v'anshe Sodom ram v'chatam l'Hashem ma'od, roim is olam hazech, adam haba, aval oimdim b'din. They will be resurrected, and they will be punished, and their sin will be corrected. Which ultimately means that there is some element of hope for those evil people of Sodom. How do we understand that? After all, this is the city that has veered off and served Avodah Zarah. Says the Rogotchover, think of this Ir Hanidachas in the following sense. Now this is amazing. He quotes a Gemara in Menachos. Listen to this Gemara. The Gemara Menachos wants to know, we know when you bring a carbon mincha, it's not on the sheet. You take off the kaimetz, right? You grab the fistful of flour, you take off the kaimetz. What do you do with the, right? What do you do? Excuse me, you take a kaimetz, right? You take a fistful. What do you do with that fistful? You burn it. Once you burn the kaimetz ha-mincha, what could you do with the rest of the mincha? You could eat it. Says the Gemara, when are you allowed to eat the rest of the mincha? Well, we know you have to burn the kaimetz. How much of the kaimetz has to be on fire for you to be able to eat the rest of it? Says the Gemara, when most of the kaimetz is on fire, then you could eat the rest of the mincha. So the Gemara says on Chafav and Beis Menachos, how do you know this? So the Gemara says, we know it from light. Because the city of Sodom was like a carbon mincha. The city that was burnt was the kaimetz. Light was the shirayim. It's a Gemara. When was light escaped? The Pasuk says, "V'hinei Allah kitar haaretz kekitar hakivshan." The smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace. When does the smoke of a furnace start to go up? When most of the furnace is on fire. So too, when most of the kaimetz is on fire, you can eat the shirayim. Says the Rogotchover, what do you see from here? That the Gemara understands the burning of the city of Sodom as the burning of a carbon mincha. Which means that this is not viewed as God is destroying the city as a punishment, as an utter destruction of the city. It's kapara. It's for its ultimate rectification. It's a tikkun for the city. Right? No one would ever say, we're burning the kaimetz of a mincha because we can't stand that mincha. We want to beat it. We want to destroy it. No. We burn the mincha as kapara, and that permits the rest of the mincha. So too, God wasn't burning down Sodom as a mean, cruel punishment. He was burning Sodom for a tikkun, to correct and rectify the city. So that's why light was ultimately saved. Light is the mincha. And that's why the Rogotchover points out, look at number 22, the Tosfos in Masechtas Sanhedrin says that the people of an Anshe Ir Hanidachas who are killed will eventually have some share in the world to come. Says the Rogotchover, now we understand why. La'asid Lavai, there's a nevuah in Sefer Yechezkel. The Yechezkel comes into the Beis HaMikdash, and he sees, this is in Yechezkel, Parak Mem Zayin, he sees water coming out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and it's headed toward the Yam HaMelech, and ultimately the salty waters of the Yam HaMelech will become sweetened from the river of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It's a nevuah in Yechezkel. So the Rogotchover says, how do we understand that? In this context of what we learned today, that the destruction of Sodom was not a cruel punishment. It was to rectify them. It was ultimately to give them tikkunos, to correct them. That's why Sodom will have a degree of tikkun in that the waters of the Kodesh HaKadoshim will sweeten the salty waters of the Yam HaMelech, and Sodom will have its ultimate tikkun, all in the context of what we learned today, that what happened to Sodom was the din of Anshe Ir Hanidachas. The two malachim were two Talmidei Chachamim. The opportunity to give them tshuva is the source of the Rambam that you give the Anshe Ir Hanidachas opportunity to do tshuva. That is why only Sodom and Amorah were burnt, the other cities were overturned. That is why Lot was able to escape to Tzayar. That is why we learn out from Avram Avinu sitting that Dayanim sit. All of these various halachas. That's why we need to know that Lot lived in Sham Sodom. That's why we need to know that the other people were able to escape beforehand. All of these various halachas are learned out from what we thought was narrative and story, but actually every single prat we learn out halacha l'maisa. Have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.